Okay.
Sounds good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Know the Facts. Tonight we have with us Dr. Clermont. It's a pleasure to have him on the show. He's going to talk about many interesting things, so it'll be to your advantage if you listen. I know you don't like me, but you'll like him. He's a gentleman. I'm not, so I'm just telling you up front. Anytime he wants to start, that's up to him. Dr. Clermont?
Okay, very good. Yeah, I hope that you've been attending and doing your exercises, because we have that class 10 o'clock every morning. Make sure you listen, channel 28. Today we're going to talk about medications. I want to save you a few bucks. So let's start right from the start here. The FDA, Food and Drug Administration, $5 billion budget every year. $5 billion. And they have over 15,000 people working for them. You would think that with that number of people and that amount of money, they could accomplish something. Well, we'll talk about that. What do they do? What does the Food and Drug Administration do? Well, they're supposed to look at all of the medications, first of all. And they classify them in different categories. First of all, prescription medication. The only thing I'm going to talk about with prescription meds is the expiration date. Now, when I mentioned expiration date to a couple of people, they said, God, is that the day I'm going to die? No, I'm talking about drugs. The expiration date. That date that's on your pill bottle, your prescription pill bottle, that has not the expiration date that the pharmaceutical house put on it. That has the expiration date the pharmacy put on it. It's exactly 1 year from the date that the prescription was written originally. 1 year. That's not the date that the drug expires. How do you get a drug expiration date? It's made up. They make it up. And since they don't continue to test after 2 to 3 years after that medicine, that batch is made, they put that as the date of expiration because they want to make more money. That's always the bottom line, more money. So what is that true expiration date? What is that supposed to mean? Well, what they say is that it guarantees the full potency and safety of that medication up to that date. That is a total BS, because the lawyers on the pharmaceutical house staff say that as soon as the integrity of the original bottle is opened, they no longer will guarantee that expiration date. No longer. So as soon as the pharmacist opens it up, puts it into your bottle, no more guarantee. You didn't know that, did you? So after that, what does that expiration date mean? Back when I was doing some missionary work, this was way back, 30 years ago, there were a few studies done, showed that medication that came from all sorts of different sources were tested. 66% of them had 100% potency. And that was up to 10 years. Well, what if these medications were preserved that whole time? What do you get then for expiration? Well, back in 1987, the U.S., I believe it was the Air Force, U.S. Air Force, petitioned the FDA because they had a load of medications in their stockpile. So did the Army, so did the Navy, so did the Coast Guard. As you know, they all have their own pharmacies. So does the VA hospital. So does the federal government. Federal government has a huge stockpile for emergencies that they keep. Well, if they followed the expiration dates given to them by the pharmaceutical house, they would be spending millions of dollars every year turning those over, throwing away the old meds. So they petitioned it back in 1987. Could we extend this? Well, what the FDA did, they got together with the Department of Defense for all of these other contractors, the Department of Defense and the FDA, and they tested 122 different medications that were supposedly the main medications used. These are all pills and capsules, not liquids, not injectables, pills or capsules. Out of the 122, 88% of them were 100% potent and safe. 88%. And those are under strict conditions. What do I mean by strict conditions? Temperature was always the same, and incidentally, you should benefit from that too. Keep your medications between 57 and 70. Keep them in a cool, dark place. Notice your bottles, none of them are just look-through transparent. They're all stained. Keep them in a dark place, cool place, low humidity. Don't keep them in the bathroom. High humidity when you take your shower. Don't put them on the windowsill where the sun is coming through. Might as well guarantee you're going to knock off those medications. So keep them correctly, and at least they're going to last 10 years beyond what it says on the pharmaceutical label. 10 years. So what did the government do? The FDA said, we'll extend them. And so they had, in 1986, they had the Pharmaceutical Extension Act, Shelf Life Extension Act. Extended an average of 5.5 years on all of those 122 meds. And every year, as drugs come up, they get tested, extended, all the way up to 10 years. So remember that. So if you take a medicine that's one day after its a so-called expiration date, don't worry about it. If you've preserved it well, if you've kept it according to regulations, you're okay. So that's all about prescription meds. What else does the FDA do? Well, they also take care of OTC, over-the-counter meds. Those are medicines that are prescribed, but now they're produced in a lower dose, and you can buy them right over the counter. Examples of that are all of the heartburn pills, for example, Prevacid and ranitidine and omeprazole, all those. They're all over-the-counter meds. Used to be just prescription, now you buy them over the counter. They're supposed to be regulated the same way regular prescription meds are regulated. The next category down, dietary supplements. And I want to spend some time on dietary supplements. Do you know that every year the USA, you spend over $30 billion on dietary supplements? I'll say that one more time, $30 billion on dietary supplements. First of all, what is a dietary supplement? It is a medication. It's not a medication. I'm sorry. It's a food. It's a food that has either vitamins, minerals, or some other substance in it that supposedly will influence your food, give you a little better supplement, nutritional supplement. That's all it is. Helps your diet. All they have to do is to submit to the FDA that they're going to have this particular medication, I keep saying medication. It's not a medication. It's a dietary supplement. So they submit it to the FDA. The FDA then will approve it. And now they have to just follow certain, quotes, regulations. Have to have a good pharmaceutical process. Okay. The FDA comes in maybe once every few years, checks out the pharmaceutical site, and okay, you can go ahead and produce that. They also have to have accurate labeling. What is on that label should be what's in that bottle. And so but who regulates that? The pharmaceutical house that produces the dietary supplement, not the FDA. The people who produce it, the Fox in the hen house. They're the ones who are supposedly regulating themselves. What are examples of dietary supplements? The most blatant one, multivitamins. Now, when I was a kid, we went down the row of the pharmacies, and maybe 2 or 3 different brands of multivitamin. That was it. No big deal. Then they started to produce all these different multivitamins. Then they produced individual vitamins, A, B, C, all the way down the line. Then they started to produce ones for specific organs. This one is for your stomach. This one is for your brain. This one's for your heart. This one's for your nails. And then they got some for your bladder, too. You go down the line now, there's 3 different rows of all these different dietary supplements. There's some to help you sleep, some to help you with energy. Do you need them? Do you really need them? Well, first of all, the only big study that's been done on multivitamins showed people who took multivitamins didn't live any longer than people who didn't have any more heart disease than people who didn't have any other physical improvement than people who didn't. Unbelievable, isn't it? No increased cancer, no other increased stuff. The vitamin people, of course, were touting all these things, advertising, but they always say it may stop this. It may do that, because they're not supposed to either treat or cure a particular disease. So they avoid saying that. They just say it may. This study, well, who did the study? I'll tell you, you can get a study done pretty much anywhere at any university. They'll give them maybe $50,000. That's a good money for them. They'll run the study, and it may help. Well, baloney. Do you need multivitamin? The only people who need multivitamins, women who are pregnant, people who have a digestive problem. I'm talking colitis. I'm talking a major cholesterol problem, a major absorption problem. They can't absorb the medicines that they take, or they can't absorb the foods that they take. They eat, comes right back out. They don't have time to absorb it. They need a multivitamin. Does anybody else? Hell no. What they tell you is that the older you get, the more you need, which is pure baloney. Pure baloney. You don't need more. You don't even need less. You just eat a regular diet. Regular diet. Make sure you get your couple meals of fish every week. Get your salads. You'll get everything that you need just with your regular diet. And you'll absorb them better, because all these multivitamins are chemically produced in the lab. There's no other phytochemicals. By phytochemicals, I mean chemicals that are already in the plants and all, that help the absorption. And other ways. They're defining many ways now that all these other phytochemicals are influencing the essential vitamins that you're taking in. So you're better off taking it with a diet unless you have one of those other conditions that I said. Okay, that's multivitamins. I have to tell you just one thing about all these other specific vitamins and minerals, etc., that you can get. Brain health. That really gets me going when I see these ads. Pharmacists recommend Prevagen. And I'll say it by name. Prevagen. Comes from jellyfish. There's a particular protein in that jellyfish that supposedly helps your brain. Listen, there isn't a single brain health portion out there that helps brain health. None. None of them do. What happens with Prevagen? You take the pill, it gets broken down immediately by the acid in the stomach into the amino acids, and it doesn't do a thing for your brain. Okay, remember that. Don't waste your money on any product for, quotes, brain health. Okay, I just had to get that in because that just irks the hell out of me. So I developed, basically over the course of time, instructions for people. Simple instructions telling them what they can take and some simple rules. Number one, you never take any preparation, whether it's a medication given to you by your doctor or over the counter. Never take it unless there's a specific reason for taking it. The doctor gives you something because you have a certain symptom or maybe an illness. He gives you the medication and you now have something to follow. If you get better, you needed the medication. If you just take it because you think it's going to give you more energy, you think it's going to do this or that, that's not a reason to take the medication. All you're doing is feeding that $30 billion industry. So that's rule number one. Number two, you never ever take a medication that is hawked on TV or radio or whatever by one of the celebrities, by a gecko, by any other animal. Never ever listen to them. They don't know anything. They're just reading off of a script. They don't know anything about the medication. That irks the heck out of me too because they're advertising directly to you. You got to be smart enough to say baloney. So number two, never buy anything that is promoted by actors, actresses, or geckos. Okay, that's number two. If you follow those simple things, you'll save yourself a boodle of money. Okay.
Doc, excuse me. What about this thing they're coming on TV with Zantac? One of the ingredients in Zantac could cause cancer.
That's right. Because all of a sudden, the only way the FDA can get after some of these supplements is if there's a number of people who complain that there's a side effect or a major problem associated with it. This is what happened with Zantac. People were complaining that they were having a problem, and then they looked into it. Increased number of cancers in people who were using it. And we use Zantac. People take it every day for years. And it took years before they finally got enough information. They finally said, listen, we're going to stop this. And the first thing they do is take it right off the market. You've got to show us now that you can produce this without that ingredient in it that causes cancer. Unfortunately, it's after the fact. You'd like to have this up front, but that's the way it is. So the dietary supplements, the only time the FDA gets involved is if people report problems taking that medication. That's it. So, okay, let's go on. What else now? Probiotics. I want to just mention something about that. That is roughly about 1.8, probably up to $2 billion a year industry now. $2 billion just for probiotics. And now they add prebiotics. What are probiotics? Probiotics are bacteria that are normal in your gut. In fact, you can't live without these bacteria. Some of them live there and don't bother you. They're called commensal bacteria. They just live there. There's also bacteria that help to digest. So they actually help you. And so you can't live without them. In fact, you got bacteria all over your body. You got them on your skin, your mouth, any orifice. You've got bacteria all over your body, and you can't live without them. They help cause different things on your skin, for example, acne. If you're younger, you may have some acne. That's because of the bacteria. There's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. we have mostly good. A little bit of bad maybe, a little bit. But the good bacteria totally outweigh the bad. So there's kind of symbiosis, they call it. The two living together. And the good bacteria help you. They help you with digestion. So, obviously, the manufacturers of these medications now, hey, let's get into this. We can produce these capsules of bacteria and help all the people with their digestion, give you more energy. Some of them even claim that they may help cancer. You know, they can claim anything as long as they have that may in there, you know. So be careful with that. So they have the probiotics, the bacteria. How can we make more money? We have to give those bacteria some food. So they combine it with prebiotics, which is just fiber. It's all it is, fiber. Inulin, fiber. They combine it, double the price. And you go buy the stuff. Occasionally you do need probiotics. And I'll tell you when. Number one, let's say you take an antibiotic that wipes out all the bacteria in your gut, wipes out all the bacteria in your body, actually. If you take a real potent antibiotic, you should take a probiotic. As soon as you start taking that antibiotic, take a probiotic along with it, and then take it for about 2 weeks after. That's one indication when you're taking a potent antibiotic. Number two, people with chronic diarrheal problems, again, like colitis. And there's people with ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. There's people with irritable bowel with diarrhea. Those people probably would benefit by taking a probiotic. Otherwise, you don't need it. Your bacteria in your gut, they start at age 2. They develop over the years. As we get older, you begin to change a little bit. You may have a little lower level, but they're still good bacteria. They're working for you. Don't change them. And so, don't buy probiotics. Save yourself big bucks. They're not cheap. Save yourself money. Only if you have those indications for using them. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. Let's talk a little bit about polypharmacy. I was up at the senior center, oh God, it must have been 6 months ago. This lady came in, and she comes in regularly, and she said, my husband passed, and I would like to bring in all of his medications to you. I said, well, okay, sure. So she proceeds to go out of the room, comes back in with two of her friends, and they all carried 2 bags, and I'm talking those black bags, big ones, of all of these dietary supplements. It's like the guy went down each row and took one of everything. He didn't need to take any food. He probably loaded himself up with all these dietary supplements. I said, my God, he was taking all this? Yep. Oh, that started me looking into the dietary supplements and polypharmacy. People over 65, roughly about 60% of them have taken 5 or more pills or capsules a day. Now, they're not all prescription drugs, but they take dietary supplements as well. Dietary supplements have several important features you need to know about. Number one, they can interfere with your prescription medicine. How do you know if that interferes? You ask your pharmacist. Will this stuff interfere with whatever medicine you're taking? Don't ask your doctor, he doesn't know. The pharmacist knows, because that's their specialty. Ask the pharmacist before you go taking another dietary supplement. Number two, occasionally this batch of dietary supplements can have a contaminant, just like the ranitidine that we talked about. How do you know? Well, you don't. That's the problem until somebody reports it to the FDA, and then all of a sudden they take it off the market. So nobody is looking after these things. Nobody is checking these dietary supplement batches that they produce. They're not checking them for contaminants. I should mention one thing. I forgot to mention it. I'm losing my mind. But I should have mentioned it with the probiotics. The one big study that was done with probiotics, when they studied it, 51%, say 50%, 51% had no bacteria in them. None, zero. It's like taking a sugar pill. And people probably paid good money for that too. So, my gosh, if you're getting a medication or a dietary supplement, always make sure you take something for a reason. Don't waste your money on something that may not even have any effect whatsoever. I forgot to mention that about the probiotics, but people need to know that. Mm-hmm. How are we doing time-wise, Bob?
I've only got 1 minute.
1 minute?
I know it. I know
oh, my gosh. Well, listen, I also have what I call my 10 commandments. And when we have another show, I'm going to go over my 10 medical commandments for you. It's something that you need to know. I'm not like Moses coming down the mountain with these tablets and all. Just giving you plain, simple advice, basically, to help with your health. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure, as always, having you on the show. You enlightened us with a lot of valuable information about medicine in its entirety, and a lot of over-the-counter stuff, and Zantac, and this tack and that tack, and whatever. And
maybe you should feed them to the board of selectmen.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I hope everyone takes information down and writes as he's talking, so you'll get a better quality of life and save a lot of money in your pocketbook. Because let's face it, any two or three medicines you buy over the counter, that's got to be at least 30 or 40 bucks. And I'm sure you can keep the 30 or 40 bucks in your pocket for good food and doing what you have to with it, instead of buying useless vitamins and medicine and all that stuff. Again, I want to thank you for being on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
And hopefully we'll see you in the future.
I hope so.
Good night, everyone, and thank you for watching.